Okay, let's go one step further. I want to show you how you can make these media queries more flexible by combining the media queries with mixins. So we're going to create mixins to handle all these typical media queries for us. Because usually you will always target the same kind of screen sizes, like 360 pixels in this case. So it would be nice if we could just give them a name so that we can always refer to that name instead of some static pixel value. Because once we have that, we can then just change what this name actually means, so what pixel value is behind it, and that will then change all the cases where we use that specific name. So we don't have to change every occurrence of media query where we use that specific pixel value. Alright, without further ado, let's go ahead and create the actual mixin. So I'm gonna hop over to the mixins partial, and then right at the top of the file I'm gonna create a new mixin, which I'm gonna call small screens. And this mixin is gonna go ahead and add a media query for screens only, which have a size of 320 pixels or less. And then it's just gonna put in whatever content we give it. So we're gonna use this content directive again, which allows us to specify what kind of styles we want to have applied for small screens in this case. And I mistyped the screens here, so make sure you have this screen in singular here. So add media only screen, and then whatever other conditions you want to have. And now, similar to Bootstrap, we can go ahead and create other mixins to handle other screen sizes as well. So I'm going to add 4 for this demo, and I'm going to call them small. Let's actually call this one tiny. I'm going to call this one small, medium, and then large. And I'm going to say that the small screens are going to be 480 pixels or less, and then we're going to have 680 pixels or less, and also our 960 that we want to use. So now once we hit save, we can use each of these in our main SCSS file. So we have tiny screens, small screens, medium screens, and also large screens. So what we can do now is we can replace our media queries right here by just including our mixin. So let's say include large screens, and then assign our font size. And this is equivalent to what was here before. So we had this explicit media query that also specified a max width of 960 pixels. But now we have this more readable variant, which we can also use at any place we use a media query like this. So we can also use this down here, where we use the same media query for the main selector. So we can also go ahead and just say include large screens. And that's going to do the exact same thing. So let's hop over to the browser and make sure that everything is still working fine. So I'm going to go back to the 360 times 640, and we can see that everything is still resizing until we hit that breakpoint of 960 pixels. And also the font size is still increasing for smaller screens. Alright, all good, so let's go back. And again, this is not only more readable, but it's also more flexible, because now we could simply change our definition of large screens to, let's say, 1080 pixels or something like that, and then it's going to reflect at every place we use this. So given that you actually use your mixin throughout your whole code, instead of using explicit media queries asking for 480 pixels, 960 pixels, and so on, you again have this advantage that you can make your change in one place and it's going to reflect throughout your whole code base, meaning that your code becomes much more flexible and maintainable. Alright, so this is a very simple version of what usual frameworks offer you. And notice that in this case, the way I defined this, the medium screen, for example, will also include all the smaller screens, because I didn't specify any minimum width. Now, depending on what you want, you can do this differently. So you can have these stages where you have a minimum and a maximum width for each of these screens. But then your styles for the large screen, for example, are not going to be reflected on medium, small, or tiny screens. Alright, so this is still a very simple and not really perfect approach. Generally, I recommend you just use an open source framework for things like this, but we are still going to improve this approach when we have our add-if directives to just be able to pass in different kinds of devices, and then one single mixin is going to handle all of these different cases. So there's still improvements here, and we're going to see this in a later lecture. For now, if you have any questions left regarding media queries, or if you have any suggestions, again, just let us know in the discussions. We're open to all our students' feedback, and we will then help you or work on your suggested improvements. Alright, thanks for watching this, and I'll see you in the next lecture.